Hey everybody, Bill Faith here. Welcome back to STR Unfiltered. I'm excited to bring you number 3 in the super team series that I'm running right now. So this is the introduction to all the members on my super team. And today we have a very good friend. He's the founder of STR Insights. He is my co-host on the STRonomics podcast. And just an overall great dude. If you don't know who he is, if you've never seen STRonomics, one, you should go and subscribe to that. But two, this is my main man, Kenny Bedwell. Kenny, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I feel like I spend more fucking time with you in the last 90 days than I have with my wife, just FYI.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Nashville this week, Orlando for a few days. We're
Yeah.
recording podcasts, all that stuff. It's crazy. All right, so this is a little bit different than our podcast. We typically go around 30 minutes. We got 10 minutes. We're 1 minute in already after that amazing intro. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Everybody knows STR Insights as the go-to tool to identify new markets and get really good live comparisons and gross ROI, but that's all about investing. How are you using STR Insights and the data that you have access to that even somebody like I don't have access to improve your hosting? How do you make more money? How do you decide on amenities? In the 8.5 minutes that we have left, I want you to share how you're using data to really increase ADR and increase revenue and profit.
Yeah. So that's a great question for me personally.
Of course it is.
I'm really well. Why I say it's a great question is because I literally did this the other day. I was looking at my competition, and I was also looking at what they're pricing in the future, and not just my competition, but the overall. I have properties or I have units that are 1 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, or I guess 2 bedrooms as well.
Where are you looking at that data, Kenny?
My database. You're asking.
Do you Avery Carl enemy method or rank? Because you can get it from Rank Breeze. You can try to. You have the database, but a regular user, right? What do you recommend?
Okay, all right. Well, you asked me about me, and I'm about to drop I'm in the sequel.
I know, but we don't have access to what you have.
Right. So you want to know? Okay, so
I want you to drop the knowledge bombs, but then tell them what they should be doing.
Okay. All right. Well, so I think it's a combination of what you just said. So Avery Carl's enemy method. So identifying competitors that have the same amenities near the same location, same, your comps. And then also using Rank Breeze pricing, competitor pricing. So you can see the daily pricing going out. I like that because obviously, prices are seasonal and some people do prices a little weird. Where they might have price, like for example, in Buffalo, we're very seasonal. We've got wintertime right now. So prices are like 30% lower, 40% lower, even than what it is in the summertime. So, but some people, my competitors, they're not priced appropriately. And so they're priced lower even until up to the summer. And then they price up. So it's understanding that logic and looking at that data from the competition standpoint. And then for me personally, for those who want to know, the data nerds out there, I'm looking at the entire whole as well. So I'm looking at all of the properties in that area that fit that bedroom count, not necessarily my direct competition. They could be slightly different or whatever, but just the bedroom count and seeing what those trends look like in the data.
Do you look up and down at all? Like if you have a 4 bedroom, do you look at a 5 bedroom and a 3 bedroom as a comparison or just 4 bedrooms?
Yes, it depends on the market. So for me, if there's a lot of so some of the properties I have a lot of bedroom, or there's a lot of, they're like 1, 2, and 3. So there's a lot of those. And so, something the law of large numbers and statistics. So I have enough data to feel extremely confident of just looking at that particular bedroom count. However, with my property in Watkins Glen, the 7 bedroom property, I'm the only 7 bedroom. And so I find myself comparing, I'm looking at the 5s and the 6s as well to understand. And they're very, very similar in terms of, the rates, like the trends and how rates should fluctuate, even though they might be slightly priced higher depending on the bed count.
Right. So let's talk about some of that data that you have access to that us, peasants, don't have access to. What are you doing to try to improve revenue or maybe even stay status quo for 2021 or 2022 moving forward with the data that you have?
So for me, the biggest thing is looking at the impact of amenities in particular areas or my properties. So, I was just looking and saying, okay, I have a thesis like if I add a hot tub to my property in Watkins Glen, can that improve revenue? Is there any data to back that up? And for me, I can go through a database and kind of quickly figure that out. Other people, you're going to have to go through all the properties that have hot tubs and compare their revenue to properties without hot tubs. There are some massive assumptions there that you're assuming that hot tubs do impact revenue. But you can start to see some trends and commonalities. And the biggest thing is in occupancy rates in some of my markets. Properties with hot tubs have, for a yearly average, occupancy rate is a little bit higher than properties without hot tubs because their occupancy extends a little bit longer into the shoulder season and even winter. They'll pick up winter bookings because they have that hot tub, and that makes them more attractive. So, looking at average occupancy for a year and not just on a monthly or quarterly basis is key as well.
It's kind of interesting. I think I'm pretty good at this stuff. I've been doing it a while, had a little bit of success. And I'll never forget our mastermind meeting in Miami in August of this past year. And you were doing the quiz, and it was like, do allowed pets move the needle in Gulf Shores? And I literally have this property that is my worst performing property in my portfolio, and I allow pets in Fort Morgan, which is different than Gulf Shores, but the only pet-friendly beach in all of the Gulf in Alabama. And Kenny gives me the date. He drops the bomb. Yeah, it doesn't move the needle. And I'm like, what the fuck? So if the only pet-friendly beach doesn't move the needle, and you have that data, how do the peasants like us get access to like the top 3 or 4 amenities we should be dropping in those markets? I mean, if you don't have it, you probably should create that fucking report and send it out, at least for the big vacation rental markets, and charge for it. Holy, I would buy it.
Yeah.
Because is there a way that we can get access to that?
No, not right now. I mean, we're definitely working on it because people see the value in it. But in terms of,
how do I know? I don't mean to interrupt you. How do I know? I've got a 4-bedroom place in Beach Mountain that you're aware of. I don't have a hot tub there. How do I know if I should spend 10 or 11 grand? Do I just enemy method that? What's your recommendation?
Yeah. So, it's basically go out and gather your data. I mean, that's what essentially we're doing. We're just doing it, we're using software to do it for us. And so, you can go out and gather that data. It could be manually, like going through an enemy method and picking out those properties that have hot tubs versus non-hot tubs and looking at their revenue. Because you can see, almost every data platform allows you to see an estimated amount of revenue for each property. So you can collect those data points and put them in a spreadsheet, and then you can start to do your analysis that way. It obviously takes time to do that. So, you could use a VA, you could hire someone whatever, but that's going to be the best way for someone who doesn't have the data skills to write a script to pull all that data from, Airbnb and VRBO.
So I know you made a tremendous investment and I don't mean like huge dollar amount. I mean like low dollar amount for a very, very high, cash on cash flow business in Watkins Glen last year. What are you doing now as you're coming up on your 1-year anniversary? You're probably 10 months in right now, I think, since probably you listed roughly. Didn't you?
April or May? We listed into May, so I don't know.
So let's say 8-9 months. What do you? But your season's this summer. Are you based on the information that us peasants don't have access to? Are you adding amenities? Are you adding that hot tub? Are you doing fire pits? Are you adding the bowling alley? That's a new amenity. We can check the box in Airbnb. What are you doing?
So I talk about this a lot, but the biggest thing that if you're going to add an amenity, you need to understand the timing of when you add that amenity, especially if it's impacting a season. So like, for example, adding a hot tub to a beach market, I don't really recommend that based on the data, but if you were to add it for the summer, I wouldn't expect that to move the needle in terms of increasing your ADR, occupancy, or whatever. That's going to be a winter play. So adding that now might not be the best move, you might want to wait on that kind of thing. And it's the same thing for Watkins Glen. People aren't booking based on the data I have. People aren't booking for hot tubs during the summertime. It changes for the fall and the winter. So, and if I understand my booking lead time, so how far out people are actually booking, I know that, hey, if I'm going to get that hot tub, I really don't need it till about midsummer, and then I can start advertising it for the fall and winter bookings. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand together, is understanding when people are booking for, you're looking to book, and making sure you have the amenities and that's advertised for them. So,
you know, a lot of people look at adding pools as like one of the top amenities, regardless of location or wherever it is.
yeah.
But you never hear anybody talking about heated versus non-heated. This is the Emil question, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how is there any way to correlate the difference between heated and non-heated pools? I mean,
absolutely.
You can get that data?
Yeah.
Okay, you and I need to have a discussion when we get done with this.
Yeah, that's it.
Because I think a lot of people go and they will just put in a pool, and they don't want to spend that extra $4,000 or $5,000 for a heater, and that really doesn't do them any good 6 months out of the year.
Correct. Yep. So,
but
I mean,
but you can actually build a report that says the value of a heated versus non-heated pool.
Yeah, it's a little bit. The problem with a report is people want like a straight up number. It will increase my revenue by X or my ADR by X, and that's just not. There's so many things that impact revenue. So the data is really saying it kind of tells me yes.
It's a potential, right?
Yeah, it says yes or like does a heated pool impact revenue? Yes. And it can impact it by a factor of Y, but it's almost like but it's looking at the whole market. It's not looking at because one bedroom count isn't enough data for the model or the algorithm to feel statistically confident that it can impact revenue. So we have to pull the entire market. But it tells you that it does impact revenue in a positive manner. And so, you know, and it kind of gives you a rough ROI, but it's not based on bedroom count. So.
Right. It's interesting. And, you know, you're right. Hey, Kenny, I'm going to spend $100,000 on a pool. Am I going to make 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand additional? A lot of it has to do with your marketing and your positioning. If you just add the pool and just check the pool box, that's one thing. But if it becomes a focal point of your staging and your outdoor design and your listings and your email marketing, then it's a different jam there. Kenny, this is a very short podcast. We're 2.5 minutes over. You're extremely valuable. I want to ask you one kind of parting shot, one departing question. What is the number one piece of advice that you would give to people to make more money in 2023?
Oh man.
It's a tough one.
The number one advice. I would say always be checking and monitoring your competition, whether that's with pricing, new amenities they add, reviews, and the sentiment from the guests in the reviews, understanding your guests in terms of what they're saying and responding to that of your competition and yourself. So I know that's like kind of pieces there, but really the underlying theme in that is watch your competition and always try to be beating your competition, because this industry changes often. So you need to adapt and you need to, always try to be number one. So.
It's so interesting because successful entrepreneurs, a majority of them will tell you, don't even look at your fucking competition. Be linearly focused on growing your business, your product, your service. But I agree with you 1,000% because we are so reliant on Airbnb and VRBO don't really create the marketplace. They create the platform for the guests and us to go to, but it is the reviews and the sentiment. And that's where, these platforms like Airbnb is, they're following the sentiment of what Travis Kalanick, who founded Uber, really revolutionized, right? And it's that peer-to-peer, component of reviewing. And a lot of us, we feel like we're held hostage to Airbnb. Nobody talks about VRBO reviews, but they're just as important on VRBO as they are on Airbnb. But I don't hear anybody talking about leveraging them from a research standpoint. Can you take a second and dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah. I mean, so you can go through and I recommend this, study the reviews and understand what we call it user sentiment is. So not the number, not the star rating, because this is something interesting. people don't like, for me and you as hosts, and even guests too, like guests are kind of understanding what's like the ratings are for Airbnb, like the rankings. Like if you get a 4-star, that means it was like an okay to like borderline bad stay. Not somewhat great or like good, but okay. And it's almost detrimental to hosts to even get a 4-star. If you get a 3 or less, that means the host was pissed. Like they had a terrible
You mean the
stay and
guest was
something
pissed.
bad happened. So 5-star really isn't like this excellent, great stay. It's just like it was a good stay. And so understanding that we can't necessarily rely on ratings as a guide to understand sentiment analysis of how guests are feeling is really important. You actually have to go and study the reviews.
That makes a lot of sense because I mean, I've gotten 4-star reviews and they've written positive comments.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's an inexperienced guest that doesn't really understand the reviewing system. That's where the Airbnb and VRBO reviewing systems are flawed, is they don't really educate. They have their little 2 sentences of what it is when they go into the review process, but 5 stars built out to be like the top, la creme de la creme, perfect everything, right? And for us, it's standard. So that level is completely different in the guest's eyes, which makes it really challenging. So that makes a lot of sense to really dive into the sentiment. So you heard it here first, folks. Pay attention to your reviews, not necessarily the star rating. But you can see a lot of things too. I mean, if people continuously complain or give you compliments on how bad your beds are or how comfortable they are, right?
Well, and let me add this real quick. The number one way to know if a particular amenity that somebody adds that's not a checkbox to see if there's impact is to look at their reviews. Are guests mentioning that amenity? Case in point, Waffle Bar. So, I mean, we can go into that in a sec, but like, does that actually impact revenue? I've heard extremely mixed feelings from people about it based on their experiences of people who've added it. I'm the guy that's like, I want to see it. And like, I want to see people talking about it before I'm willing to add it and make it complicated.
You can go to
people aren't talking about
go
it.
to Sunset Point at Smith Lake and check out the reviews.
There you go. If people aren't talking about it, then I'm not going to add it because there's no value. So
that's part of the problem with social media, though, right, Kenny? Is we do a waffle bar, and I'm going to take credit for being the first person to implement a waffle bar, even though I probably wasn't. But long story, someone told me about it in a boot camp, and then that's when I did it, actually. With the presentation and the size of it is a little bit overwhelming. If you just go and you give out Lego My Egos or whatever and leave them in the freezer, somebody may call that a waffle bar. That's why we've always got to have context to this. And that's the one thing I love about this conversation the last 5 minutes is you're talking about giving context to the review status, the stars, right? And that's super important that we don't hear anybody talking about.
Yep.
So when you're doing the enemy method on your competition, you don't have a hot tub. Let's just use that as an example at Watkins Glen, correct?
Yes.
So you would go and look. You're the only 7 bedrooms, so you're probably going to look at 4, 5, 6 bedrooms and see.
Well, I also have to look in other markets because there's not enough properties in Watkins Glen that even have hot tubs.
But you're looking in neighboring markets. You're not
Correct.
going to Saratoga or to Manhattan or Long Island or something like that.
Correct.
So that makes a lot of sense. So if you're in Gulf Shores, you could look in Orange Beach, Fort Morgan, whatever. If you're in Destin, maybe the Forgotten Coast of Fort Walton Beach. Stay in that general area is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Awesome. That's great stuff. You heard it here from Kenny Bedwell, folks. Kenny, thanks for joining me on the STR Unfiltered podcast. You can find Kenny at Kenny_Bedwell on Instagram. If you are not subscribing to STR Insights and you're in the investing process, you are missing out. So head over to STR Insights, take a look. Kenny, we'll see you later. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us.